Hello, good evening and welcome. You've just entered the arena. I'm Michael Coren, whether you like it or not, and thanks for joining me. Okay, another court case, this time in New Brunswick, trying to make spanking illegal. Now, I don't mean beating and punching. That's appalling. I mean a spank with an open hand on the bum, you know, the top of the leg, or most parents have done this. Loving parents, I mean. Now, let me tell you a story. Gavin was having a bad day, and when 5-year-old boys have bad days, everybody gets to know about it. He kicked the cat. His father told him to stop him. Gavin refused, gave the creature another kick, at which point Joe, the dad, did what many parents might do. He gave his son a little spank. End of story. But no, the spanking on the bum left a very slight mark, and this was noticed by a teacher at Gavin's swimming lesson. The teacher reported it to the Children's Aid Society. You know what's going to happen. So, telephone call from a very young social worker to Joe's wife, Perry. The social worker wanted clarification of the incident and requested an interview with little Gavin. Well, I'll have to speak to my husband first, said the actually heavily pregnant Perry. The social worker was incredulous, annoyed. Why on earth do you have to speak to your husband? Because, replied Perry, he's my husband because he's Gavin's father and because he's the head of the house. It was a month later when the police came to arrest Joe. They came to where he worked, they handcuffed him in front of his workmates, and they took him away like some rapist or murderer. He was charged with assault and was told by the police that he really should make a statement before his lawyer arrived, because if he didn't, it would look bad in court, you see. Joe had nothing to hide, and so he made a statement. He spent 2 days in jail. He had to fend off sexual advances from other men. After a brief court appearance, the Crown asked for $1,000 in bail. His wife managed to get the money and offered it to the court. She was turned down because of a statement she had made, listen to this, to the 22-year-old social worker on the phone. She had referred to her husband as being, quote, the head of the house, and this was to be used in court by the prosecution, the accusation being that the couple had a, quote, slave-master relationship. So the money had to be found elsewhere. It wasn't easy for a family with limited personal savings, but they managed. The bail conditions initially prevented Joe from having any contact with minors, effectively stopping him from seeing his family. Perry protested so loudly that eventually her husband was allowed to return home. Wow. The couple had to go to court a further 7 times, with the Crown demanding further investigations. It was almost as if they were trying to punish us, say the couple. Their legal bills eventually totaled more than $10,000, but their lawyers were so outraged by what was going on, they halved the cost. Finally, the judge dismissed the charge under Section 43 of the Criminal Code, which allows parents to, well, to be parents and to spank, occasionally, their children with reasonable force, if they see fit to do so. The whole family was and still is in shock, and Joe is hardly confident of promotion at work after he was seen being arrested. As for young Gavin, well, none of the people behind this persecution seemed to care very much about him. It seemed to be his parents they were after. He is, by the way, an extraordinarily happy and content little boy. The only thing he worries about these days is the idea of social workers and policemen coming to take his daddy away. It's spanking. Just a spanking. Very few parents do it, and just occasionally. But some people are obsessed with this, obsessed with stopping it. Be warned about them. Be warned. That actually was in the offices of Sun News. That's what happens to interns. It's a great job. Okay, spank your children, go to jail, or something like that. Once again, there is a court case, I mentioned this in the monologue, to make spanking illegal. And once again, the zealots are on the march. Now, important, I don't mean beating or punching a child. That's wrong, that's illegal. I mean a spank on the bum, on the hand, on the top of the leg. That's all. Illegal? Jeff Gunnarson is a pro-life activist who has raised his own children, adopted and fostered many others. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Michael.
How many children have you raised?
Well, my wife and I banter back and forth about how many we have, but according to her, it's
you don't know how many you have.
According to her, it's 25 in terms of fostered children. Yeah. We have 4 of our own, 2 biological, right. 2 were adopted from the fostering agency.
So here's a leap in the dark. You may know a little bit more about raising children than a 14-year-old social worker with a radical agenda or a lawyer who thinks that all men are oppressive. You just might.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, We have 4 kids. Spanking, you know, we've hardly ever spanked. It's not always that effective because I feel guilty afterwards. And they get to a certain age, they're either too small or they're too big. Yep. You know, what do they care? What I object to is this idea that if I do, I'm in trouble, I could be arrested. Taking away another right of a parent. It's not about beating your child. That is illegal. It's about an occasional spank. But there are many people, zealots here, and they lie. They say, no, people like that won't be challenged. Not true. They've been arrested. It will make spanking illegal. Now, is it likely to ever be achieved?
It sounds like it will. I mean, they're pushing it. They've been pushing bills to get rid of that what is it, from 2 to 12 you can spank, but they want to get rid of that altogether. I think it will. I think it will be achieved one day. I know that during the recent fostering years, in the last, we stopped about 3-4 years ago, we were being warned then that we better not do timeouts in the corner because that is starting to be defined as corporal punishment. So
a timeout in the corner?
Yeah. Sitting on the stairs is okay. Sitting on a chair, perhaps sitting on their bed in their bedroom.
Right.
But don't make them face the corner.
It's a fundamental problem of who raises children, the parents of the children or the state?
Yeah, the state is the guardian, legal guardian of those foster kids.
Of the fostered, yeah.
But when you read the law, when you read different sections of the law, Section 43, for example, it sounds like it's anybody in care of those children, who's supposed to be in care of those children.
But beyond fostering is something, but it's not really that different, but just raising children. You know, I see, first of all, we almost encourage divorce in society and pretend it doesn't hurt children. It does.
Yep.
We see kids walking around dressed, frankly, as little hookers and little pimps. And we have big business selling their stuff and parents encouraging it. We had last week a 4-year-old who was dressed as a prostitute from Pretty Woman,
yes,
with the parents clapping their hands. Yeah. We see foul language, lack of responsibility. None of this apparently is against the law, but a good loving parent who may once in a blue moon go, don't do that again, can be arrested if these people have their way.
Absolutely. And then, but you can also strangle your newborn, throw it over a fence and not get arrested, or at least not spend any jail time. This was about 7-10 days ago,
right,
out west. And, you know, the judge then said something about, well, we all know how difficult motherhood is. And if you don't have any support, it's even that much more difficult. So I think we can sympathize with this woman for killing her baby.
It's an interesting world in which we live, isn't it? Look, I've met them, there are frightened, inadequate parents who seem to be as crazy as the zealots who want to remove all spanking. And they do use corporal punishment, I think, too often. And I'm uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
Some religious families, and they're frightened of the world, and they will use a stick or a spoon or something like this. I don't want to make that illegal, but I don't approve of that behavior.
Exactly. I think most of us fall in that 97% category, maybe it's higher, where we're reasonable. And we wouldn't, I mean, no parent, sane parent wants to hurt their children. And one of the frustrating things is when I have spanked my boys in the past, they'll come out with, that didn't hurt.
Yeah, well, it's pride, macho pride.
Yeah. And then Bill Cosby has a good joke about that, but I won't go into that.
Bill Cosby has a good joke?
Yes.
That stuns me.
His old stuff was very good. Anyway,
You've forgotten the joke.
No, I'm not trying to get the joke out. But absolutely, you can't. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody's going to hurt their kids. And the case that brought this about, I think, is the New Brunswick case.
Yeah.
Where he is now appealing. The father is able to appeal the case. That's a very strange situation.
But, you know, because we haven't got much time, we have cases where social workers don't intervene when children are starved to death and they're living in their own filth. And time and time again we hear about this. And these tend to be good parents who actually want to intervene and say, no, you can't do this. It's your bad behavior, you're going wrong. And they'll just a spank. And you can be seen doing it. We had in London, Ontario, an American tourist, spanked a child who slammed the door on a child's fingers. Yep. Someone reported it. They were arrested.
Yeah. That's ludicrous.
Right, you know, we'll get back to this on another occasion because this will not go away. And it's saying to parents, we're in charge, the state, the social workers, not you. And my golly, who would do the better job?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much indeed.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.